If this message has reached you before July 6th, I want to start by saying, you're not just on time, you're early. And that's more meaningful than you might think. We live in a culture that glorifies reaction. Crisis hits and then we move. Deadlines loom and suddenly we come alive. But when you receive something ahead of time, when a message, a word, a signal arrives before the moment of pressure, what you do with that early awareness reveals the difference between surviving and growing, between being dragged by life and directing it. So congratulations, because if you're hearing this now, it means you're not just floating in the current. You're swimming upstream with intention. Let's be honest, the vast majority of people don't move until they have to, until circumstances force their hand. It's not because they're lazy necessarily. It's because we've been conditioned to confuse comfort with safety and urgency with importance. But what if I told you that the real power is in showing up before the crowd starts running? That there's a quiet kind of excellence in recognizing a moment before it becomes obvious. There's something sacred about being early. It means you were listening when no one else was paying attention. It means your spirit caught something your mind couldn't fully explain yet. You may not even know why this moment feels important, but your arrival here is evidence that you're tuned in on a deeper level. Philosophers have wrestled with the nature of time for centuries. Plato said time is the moving image of eternity. Kierkegaard said life can only be understood backward, but must be lived forward. What that tells me is that we don't always understand the significance of a moment until it has passed. But those who arrive early begin to sense its weight in real time. That's not just wisdom, that's alignment. Psychologically, this is what we call anticipatory awareness. It's when your subconscious picks up on patterns and possibilities before they're fully formed. It's why a visionary leader sees where the world is going before the numbers catch up. It's why an artist starts sketching an idea before language can describe it. And it's why some people show up prepared, not because they knew everything in advance, but because they trusted the nudge to move. If that's you, don't underestimate how rare that is. And maybe you're sitting here unsure if this really applies to you. Maybe you're thinking, I just happened to be in the room, or I was just curious. But can I challenge that thought? What if your curiosity is actually confirmation? What if your presence is proof that something in you is awake? Something that's been waiting for permission to get started, not on July 6th, but now. Being early isn't just about time, it's about posture. It's about showing up ready to receive before the world even knows what's being offered. That kind of readiness creates space. It creates clarity. And it creates momentum, because when everyone else is just arriving, you're already building. So if this message has reached you before July 6th, don't waste that head start. Don't get comfortable just because there's still time. Time is deceptive. It gives you the illusion of control until suddenly it's gone. Use this window to gather your thoughts, to align your values, to clarify your purpose, not just for what's coming, but for who you are becoming in the process. You were not meant to live on borrowed time. You were meant to live in rhythm with it. And if you're here now, liching, wasening, absorbing, then our rhythm is already starting to shift. You don't need all the answers yet. You just need to recognize the weight of your arrival, because early is not a mistake. It's not coincidence. It's a call. So listen closely. You're not here by accident. You're here because something inside of you is already ahead of the moment. The question is, will you honor the head start or wait until the deadline to believe it mattered? If you're here before July 6th, you didn't just arrive early. You arrived prepared. Maybe not in the sense of having every detail figured out, but prepared in spirit, prepared in posture. And that kind of preparation doesn't start with strategy. It starts with awareness. Because let's be real, preparation is not just about getting ready for a date on the calendar. It's about becoming ready in who you are. That's the difference between performing and transforming. A performance asks, what do I need to show people when the time comes? But transformation asks, who do I need to become so that when the time comes, I don't flinch? There's a certain kind of wisdom that comes when you stop measuring time in minutes and start measuring it in meaning. July 6th could be a deadline. It could be a launch. It could be symbolic. But no matter what that date represents for you, personal growth, a promise, a pivot, you are now standing in the before. And what you do in the before determines how you'll show up in the after. We tend to underestimate what happens in preparation because it's not visible. It's not Instagram worthy. It doesn't get applause. But it's in the quiet moments of preparation where identity is shaped, where you decide not just what you want, but what you're willing to become for it. That kind of preparation goes beyond logistics. It's psychological, it's spiritual. Preparation doesn't guarantee a smooth road, but it does build your capacity to endure the road ahead. When you prepare intentionally, you don't show up hoping the moment will carry you. You show up knowing that even if the moment falters, you won't. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about hustle. This isn't about overworking or trying to outpace your fear. It's about alignment. It's about living in such a way that your actions match your values, your vision, and your voice. That's what real preparation looks like, internal congruence. There's this quote by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. He said, first say to yourself what you would be and do what you have to do. That's preparation. It's declaring who you are before the test comes. It's laying a foundation so solid that when the shaking starts, because life will shake you, you're not scrambling for identity in the rubble. And let's talk about fear for a second, because it always shows up when you're preparing for something bigger. Fear is loud during preparation because it knows what's coming. It knows you're stepping into something that could stretch you, grow you, even free you. And freedom, while beautiful, is terrifying to a mind that's been shaped by survival. So if you're preparing and fear is tagging along, that doesn't mean you're off track. It means you're close. It means your preparation is disrupting patterns, mental, emotional, generational. And those patterns are trying to talk you of your own evolution. Don't listen. Keep preparing. We don't always get to control the moment, but we do control the movement leading into it. Every day between now and July 6th is an opportunity to shed something that no longer fits. A thought, a habit, a lie you've believed about what you're capable of. And hear me, clearing preparation doesn't mean perfection. You are not being asked to show up flawless. You are being asked to show up faithful to the work, to the calling, to the version of you that doesn't shrink when life turns the temperature up. So breathe. Set your pace. Focus less on July 6th as a date and more as a mirror. It's not just coming to reveal what's outside of you. It's coming to reflect what's inside. And if you're preparing with intention, then what shows up in that reflection will not surprise you. It will affirm you. Let the preparation cleanse you of performance. Let it strengthen your discernment. Let it teach you the difference between rushing and readiness. Because when the moment comes, and it will, you won't just arrive, you'll stand. And when you stand, the world won't wonder how you did it. It will wonder how long you've been becoming. There's something powerful about moving early, not just ahead of schedule, but ahead of the curve. And if this message reached you before July 6th, you've done more than beat the clock. You've positioned yourself in a way most people never will. You've started the process before pressure forced your hand. And because of that, you're not just reacting to life. You're shaping it. See, early action doesn't always look glamorous. It doesn't feel dramatic. It's usually quiet, often unseen, and sometimes even questioned by others. Why are you starting now? Why are you moving before everyone else gets the memo? But the truth is, that's where the impact lies. Lasting impact is born in the moments that feel invisible to everyone but you. The world tends to notice results, but those results are just the evidence of private decisions made in early sacred spaces. Early action is a psychological shift. It breaks you out of a reactive mindset where you're waiting for external events to determine your internal direction. It pulls you into authorship. It tells your nervous system, we're not waiting for chaos to command our next move. We're creating the terms. And that shift is where power begins. So many people live waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect clarity, the perfect sign. But perfection is emerge. It stays just far enough ahead to keep you doubting. The truth is, The moment becomes perfect because you chose to act in it. You don't get impact by waiting until you're certain. You get it by trusting that the seeds you're planting in faith will find soil deep enough to grow. And if you've already taken that first step, even if it's small, maybe it was a choice, a conversation, a mindset change, you've already begun creating momentum. Momentum is spiritual. It's emotional. It's not about speed. It's about direction. It's not about how loud you move. It's about how aligned you move. That's the part most people miss. They confuse movement with progress. But progress requires more than motion. It requires meaning. That's why early action matters. When you move early, you have space to shape the meaning behind the movement. You're not rushing to catch up with a deadline. You're walking with purpose toward destiny. That shift changes everything. There's a deeper layer to this too, and it's about integrity. When you act early, you're not doing it for applause. You're not performing for people. You're choosing to build when there's no stage, no clapping, no eyes watching. That's what makes the impact real. Because what you build in the absence of validation will sustain you when the spotlight hits. Philosophically, it's about living from intention rather than reaction. The Stoics believed that the wise live according to nature, not impulse. That means they respond to what is, not just what feels. Early action requires that same discipline to feel the fear and still say yes, to sense the resistance and still move forward. You become a person who no longer waits for pressure to activate purpose. And I know, moving early can feel lonely because there won't always be confirmation right away. People might not understand why you're so focused, why you're withdrawing from distractions, why you're serious about something that hasn't even happened yet. But that's the cost of leading yourself. You don't need the crowd to validate your direction when your conviction is clear. I want you to think about what that means for the season you're in. July 6th isn't just a day. It's a symbol. It's a point in time that's asking you, who will you already be by the time I arrive? Because by then, it'll be too late to start becoming. What you'll be able to do in that moment depends entirely on what you've already done before it. And this is where we break the cycle of showing up unready and blaming the pressure. The cycle of waiting until the last minute to give life our full attention. The cycle of surviving the moment instead of shaping it. Because once you know better, you move better. And now, you've already started. You're in motion. And while the world might not see it yet, the shift has begun. So don't wait to feel certain. Don't wait to feel ready. Move early and let the impact catch up to you. If you've made it this far, if you're hearing this message before July 6th, then understand something clearly. This isn't just a congratulations. This is a signal, a signpost, a spiritual checkpoint. It's not here to pat you on the back and send you on your way. It's here to interrupt you before you fall asleep at the wheel. Because when we hear we're ahead, when we're told we're early, our first instinct is to relax, to say, I've got time, to ease up and let momentum coast us forward. But momentum without direction is a setup. What starts out as progress can quietly turn into complacency if you don't stay aware of the assignment. This message is a reminder, don't mistake a head start for a finish line. There's something that happens psychologically when people like they're early. The urgency fades. The hunger dims. We start watching the clock instead of doing the work. But purpose has nothing to do with time on a clock. It has everything to do with time in your hands. And when you're given a message like this in advance, it means something's being entrusted to you. It means you're being called to move. Not faster, but deeper. Not in panic, but with precision. You didn't arrive here just to hear encouragement. You arrived to hear instruction. Think of this like a divine whisper. Something sent to you before the noise begins. And if you can listen closely now, while it's still quiet, you'll hear what most people miss. See, once July 6th hits, once that symbolic moment arrives, everybody will be scrambling to catch up. People will start trying to prepare in the middle of the performance. They'll start praying for clarity while standing in the storm. But you were handed something early That means you've been given a vantage point. And with that vantage point comes responsibility. That's the part we don't talk about enough. The weight of being early, because early is not just a blessing. It's a burden if you don't know what to do with it. To receive a message early means you're being trusted to carry something. Not just information, but insight. Not just awareness, but action. You were told ahead of time so you could act ahead of time. And I get it. There's a tension here. Because part of you wants to stay in the comfort of being informed instead of stepping into the discomfort of being responsible. But growth doesn't come to those who are merely informed. It comes to those who respond. There's a difference between knowing what's coming and becoming who you need to be when it gets here. So I need you to lean in. You have an opportunity right now that most people won't recognize until it's past. You get to prepare without panic. You get to walk into the moment without the weight of last-minute decisions pulling on your clarity. You get to the person who's not just present when the moment arrives, but ready to move inside of it. Philosophers like Heidegger talked about being toward something, not just being in a moment, but living in anticipation of what a moment requires. That's what you're doing now. Learning how to live with intention towards something bigger than a date. July 6th isn't just a calendar marker. It's a catalyst. And what you do between now and then will decide whether it becomes a breakthrough or just another day. So ask yourself, am I coasting on being early, or am I using this lead to build something real? Am I sitting with this message, letting it stir something in me? Or am I waiting for someone else to confirm what I already know in my gut? Because deep down, you know what you're being asked to do. Maybe not the full picture, maybe not all the steps, but there's a whisper, a pull, a nudge that won't go away. This is that moment where you stop treating the message like a motivational quote and start treating it like an instruction manual. You were not just meant to hear it. You were meant to move with it. Don't just be early. Be engaged. Be awake. Be in motion, because early without action is just wasted awareness. Here's the thing about timing. It doesn't just move forward. It stretches, contracts, expands, and sometimes feels like it's standing still. But whether it's rushing past you or waiting patiently, the question always comes back to how you use the time given to you. And if this message has reached you before July 6th, you're standing in a unique moment, one that invites you to shift how you think about time itself. So often we treat deadlines like gates slamming shut, pressure points that force us into frantic action. We measure our worth by how much we scramble when the clock is ticking down. But that's a false narrative. Time is not a master to be feared. It's a resource to be stewarded. And when you realize that, July 6th transforms from a looming finish line into a launch pad. Think about a runway. Planes don't just take off the moment they hit the runway. They need space, momentum, and preparation. The runway isn't a boundary, it's a beginning. The time before July 6th, if you're receiving this message now, is your runway. It's the opportunity to build speed, gather strength, and set your trajectory. It's not a time to hold your breath and wait, but to breathe deep and prepare to soar. Psychologically, this is about shifting from scarcity to abundance mindset. Scarcity says, there's not enough time. I'm running out. Abundance says, time is here. How will I use it well? When you're early, you have a gift. Most people never get the chance to respond thoughtfully rather than react hurriedly. This chance to respond is sacred. It's where character is forged. It's where you decide not just what you'll do, but how you'll be when the moment arrives. And that matters because the how determines the what. How you show up before the deadline shapes what you're capable of achieving on or after it. Philosophically, it's the difference between living in Chronos time and Kairos time. Chronos is chronological, linear, ticking seconds off a clock. Kairos is the opportune moment, the right time for action that transforms. Kairos asks us to live with intention, recognizing that some moments demand not just presence, but purposeful presence. And if you're here before July 6th, you've been given Kairos, a moment pregnant with possibility. But Kairos doesn't just happen. It requires readiness, attentiveness, and courage. It requires you to engage with the present moment fully and honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. Because between now and July 6th, you will face choices to stay distracted or to focus, to shrink back or to step forward, to complain about time or to steward it well. This is your invitation to steward your time like a sacred trust, to refuse the temptation to waste the runway with fear, doubt, or hesitation, to embrace the paradox that waiting isn't passive when it's paired with intentional preparation. You are not waiting to arrive. You are arriving through your waiting. I want to remind you that time is not your enemy. It is your canvas. What you paint on it, your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs will determine the masterpiece of your journey. The moments leading to July 6th are your brushstrokes. And while you cannot control every external circumstance, you can control how you use your time to build momentum and clarity. There's a spiritual rhythm here too. Life unfolds in seasons, and each season calls for a different posture. The season before July 6th might feel like a quiet waiting, but it's really a season of gathering wisdom, strength, resilience. It's a season of becoming who you need to be for what's next. And that's why the time before that day is not to be wasted or feared, but to be honored. So I want you to hear this clearly. Don't count down nervously to July 6th. Count up powerfully. Use every moment as a step forward. Use this time to shed what no longer serves you. Use this time to deepen your vision and strengthen your faith. Use this time to prepare your mind, your heart, and your spirit for the leap ahead. Because when July 6th arrives, and it will, what you've done in this before moment will either serve as your foundation or become your regret. You have the choice. The runway is yours. So make this time your launch pad, not your limitation. Make this time the place where your future takes flight. On your terms, with purpose and with power.